All right, class, today we're going to spend a little bit more time dealing with our second linear equation, which is the slope-intercept form. So if you look here, it says for all real numbers m and b, the graph of the equation y equals mx plus b is the line whose slope is m and whose y-intercept is b. So when y stands alone, when it's in slope-intercept form, m stands for slope. So we can just look at what's in front of x and say that's the slope, and then b is my y-intercept. And remember, y-intercept is where it crosses the line crosses the y-axis. So it kind of gives us a little bit of a shortcut from yesterday. So let's look up here at number 1. What form is that equation? Well, yeah, y stands alone, so this is in slope-intercept form. So what is my slope? Well, slope's what's ever in front of x, so here m equals -3/4. If my slope is -3/4, what's the y-intercept? What's b? Well, it's the constant on the end, so that's -3. Now, if I look at equation number 2, what form linear equation is that? Yes, that's in standard form. Remember that from 8.1 and 8.2? So the question is, do you want to do the zero thing, or do you want to rearrange the furniture? Yes, rearranging the equation is so much easier. If y needs to stand alone, who do I need to move? Yeah, we need to move that 2x. What's my inverse operation? Subtract 2x. So we're going to have y equals -2x minus 4. Now, did you notice that I plopped that -2x in where he belongs? Remember, it's supposed to be mx plus b. So now that I've got y standing alone, we're in slope-intercept form. Who's in front of x? -2, so the slope is -2. What's my y-intercept? That's the constant on the end, so that's -4. Okay, let's look at number 3. Oh, what form are we in? Yeah, that's in standard form. We need to get y to stand alone so we can rearrange the furniture and figure out my slope and y-intercept. So remember, I've got to move this 4x so I can get y alone. And to do that, remember, we're going to use our inverse operation, so we have to subtract 4x. So we're going to have -3y equals -4x. I plopped him in where he belongs, and mx plus b plus 9. Now, we got a little bit of a different situation. Y isn't alone yet. How do I get rid of that -3? Yes, we're going to divide by -3 and they cancel. But remember, I've got to divide everything else. What I do to one, I do to all. So now we've got y equals, what's -4 divided by -3? Yes, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So we've got 4/3 x, positive 9 divided by -3, -3. But now that we've got this in slope-intercept form, y stands alone. What is our slope? It's what's ever in front of x, which is 4/3. And what's my y-intercept? It's the constant on the end. Now, let's look at number 4. Number 4 is one of my exceptions to the rule for standard form. When we've got it in standard form, x and y together on one side, and it equals 0, you have to rearrange the furniture. You've got to put this into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to subtract x to the other side. So there's my slope-intercept form. So let's look. What is my slope in this equation? What's in front of x? Nice, that understood -1. What's my y-intercept? Well, there's nothing back here. Did you notice that? So that means that my y-intercept is 0 because there's nothing there. Now, when we look at number 5, when we look over here at number 5, do you remember what kind of line we have when it's y equals some number? That's right, y equals some number. There's no x, okay? If there's no x, what does that mean m was? M was what? M was 0. So we have a horizontal line, okay? A horizontal line. Now, let's see how we're going to use this information. Let's go ahead. Now, everybody quickly look at slides, equations 1, 2, and 3, and let's quickly figure out what my slope is and the y-intercept. Mark, set, go. Okay, check your answers with mine. Which was the one we had to rearrange the furniture on? Yeah, number 2. Okay, we were not in slope-intercept form. We had to get y to stand alone, rearrange the furniture, and then you can determine what is your slope, because whatever in front of x is your slope, and the constant on the end is your y-intercept. Okay, now, how are we going to graph these? We kind of looked at this a little bit yesterday. Now, here's the rules to graph. If I'm going to graph an equation in slope-intercept form, remember slope-intercept form, y stands alone, the first thing we need to do is plot b. Remember, b is my y-intercept. And if I look at this first equation, b equals -5. So I'm going to go on my y-axis where it's -5, and so that means I'm going down below 0, the origin. We got to go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, big fat juicy dot. Now, the second thing I have to do is I have to apply my slope. Now remember, this time slope is -3/4. Now remember, when we're talking about slope, it's a rise over the run. It's that ratio of the rise over the run. Now, since my slope is -3/4, because it's negative, what do we know about a negative slope line? That's right, it falls. So we're going to fall 3, and we always run right. We're going to run right 4. So we go back to our y-intercept that we plotted right back down here at -5, and for our slope, since it's -3, we're going to go down 3 and then run right 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put my next big fat juicy dot. Remember, I only need 2 points to determine a line, and if I draw the line through those points, there it is. Now, got a question for you. This is supposed to be a negatively sloped line, which means it falls. Does that line look like it's falling? Sure enough. Good job. Look at my second equation over here. Now, what form is this equation? Ooh, that's in standard form. How do we graph a line in standard form? Remember, we graph a line in standard form by intercept, so we're going to do the 0 thing. So if I look over here, if I want to find my y-intercept, let's make x 0. So what does y equal? Yeah, y equals -4. Now that we found the x-intercept, now we need to find the y-intercept. Now we need to find the x-intercept. So remember, we're going to make y 0. So I have 2x equals -4. So if y is 0, what's x going to equal? -2. Okay, so when it's in standard form, we graph by intercepts. That's what we learned back in section 8.2. So now I just have to plot my 2 points. My y-intercept is 0, -4. So we're at 0, and we got to go down 4, big fat juicy dot. My x-intercept is -2, 0. So we're going to go left 2 and stay on the x-axis, x-intercept, x-axis. And when we connect our dots, there's our line. So it's very, very important to realize what form your line is in, so you know which way to graph. Very important. Okay, now let's look at our third graph of the day. Now, what form is that line? Yes, definitely standard form. But remember, it's my exception to the rule because it equals 0. Because if we went to find our intercepts, if we made x 0, what would y equal? 0. And if we made y 0, So everything's 0, 0, 0, 0, and that makes no sense. So your one exception to standard form is when it equals 0. We have to rearrange the furniture on this one. So we're going to have y equals negative x. So we've got y alone. So the first thing I have to do is plot b. What's my y-intercept this time? Did you notice there's nothing back there? So it's 0. So we're going to put a big fat juicy dot at the origin. And remember, then we're going to apply our slope. All right, so our slope is -1. Remember, we're going to have to make that -1 over 1. Are we going to rise or fall? Yep, we're going to fall 1 and then run right 1. So here I am at 0, 0. I'm going to go down 1, right 1, big fat juicy dot, and there's my equation. Is my line falling? Sure is. Okay, let's look at our fourth graph of the day. Oh, we've got y equals -3. Well, what's my y-intercept? Well, yep, that's got to be -3. Oops, I said y. I should have said b. Okay, remember b stands for my y-intercept. So this is when we plot b, okay, well, b equals what? -3. Okay, what's my slope? Oh, did you notice there's no x? So therefore, m has to equal 0. What kind of line is it if we don't have a slope, if m equals 0? That's right, it's a horizontal line. So we're going to go down on the y-axis where it equals -3. So we go below the origin, 1, 2, 3. And then we just put a horizontal line, y equals -3. Great job. Now, on our quiz, you're going to have to graph, graph all 3 different ways that we've looked at since we've gone through chapter 8. Now, let's go ahead and look at our last slide for today. And when we look here, we're going to look at this idea about parallel lines. Now, what do you remember from math past about parallel lines? Okay, well, we learned that parallel lines don't intersect. Okay, parallel lines never intersect. They don't cross each other. But now that we're in chapter 8, we're going to find out that parallel lines have the same slope. So they're going to give us 2 different equations for 2 different lines. Okay, here's equation A and here's equation B. And they want to decide, hey, are these lines parallel or not? Well, the only way that we're going to know that they're parallel is if I check it out and they have the same slope. Well, if I look at these equations over here, how am I going to check it out to see if they have the same slope? Yes, I've got to put them in slope-intercept form and then see what happens. So if I look at the first equation, if I need to get y alone, who needs to move? That's going to subtract x. So we're going to have -2y equals -x plus 1. Did you notice y is not by itself yet? So we're going to divide everything by -2. So if I look at equation A, we've got y equals a negative divided by negative is positive 1/2 x plus 1, that should be minus because I divided by -2. Sorry about that, my friends. So this is going to be minus 1/2. So when I look here at this equation, my slope is 1/2, okay? Well, now I've got to go to equation B, and let's figure out what the slope is there. So in order to do that, we've got to get y alone. We've got to move this -2x to the other side. What's my inverse operation? Yeah, we're going to add it. So we've got 4y equals 2x plus 9. Remember, I'm going to plot that 2x in where he belongs, and y equals mx plus b. Ooh, we got to get rid of this 4, which means we got to divide everything by 4. And so now I've got y equals 2/4. What does that reduce to? 1/2 x plus 9/4. Now let's look at what's in front of x. What is my slope on line B? Yes. Did you notice both of them have a slope of 1/2? Okay, their slopes are the same, so we would say same slope. Okay, same slope means parallel lines. Now this is your symbol for parallel lines. Okay, so in order for me to show or prove that they're parallel lines, I have to show they have the same slope. And in order to do that, then I need to get y alone, put it in slope-intercept form. I did that with A, and I did that with B. And when I did, if you look what's boxed in blue, they were the same slope. Both of them had 1/2 in front of the x, so they're the same slope. So therefore, they are parallel lines. Okay, you're going to have to work hard for me tonight to get ready for the quiz tomorrow.